What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Celtics Daily with me, Mike Zakarian, as we continue to dive into Boston's offseason as we're in the dog days of the offseason now. So the rumors get a little bit weirder as we get ready for NBA training camp, which is like a month or so away. But if it's your first time joining us here at the Celtics Daily, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. We're continuing to grow, approaching 1,700 subs. Appreciate all of the support. Make sure you get active in the chat. Speaking of getting active, Celtics now, I don't know, there's just more rumors flying that are like at all different ends of the spectrum. Are they taking a gap year? Are they trying to tank, waiting for Tatum to come back? Is Tatum coming back earlier than we thought? Do we go young? Do we go old? It has been a little bit confusing trying to sift through all of the noise, but one of the rumors, according to Brett Siegel of Clutch Points, that has been popping up the last couple of days is Jaden Ivey of the Detroit Pistons. Now, Ivy was one of, I believe, the fourth overall, somewhere around that range, pick for the Pistons a couple years ago. Had like a solid rookie season, had to do a little bit more because if you remember, that was the year Cade Cunningham got dinged up and missed a ton of time. So all of a sudden, Ivy got to explore a little bit more on the floor. Then last year was kind of finding his rhythm as Detroit was playing better basketball. And then he broke his leg, missed a ton of time, but is a promising young guy, like a freak athlete, able to defend pretty well, gets up and down the court at a high speed. The three-point shot, pretty intermittent. It's inconsistent. But again, a young, raw talent. And so the rumors are that the Celtics are eyeing him. So I was kind of poking around trying to see what this trade would look like. I found a couple of different scenarios. And I'll be honest, as I'm an Ivy guy. I'm an Ivy fan. I like seeing it on Bridges, but I also like it on the basketball court. This is a terrible joke. Honestly, if you unsubscribe because of that, I totally understand. But some of these are a little tricky for me, and I don't really know if I like it. But here's some of the rationale for why the Celtics would do it. You'd be able to move off of some of this salary. Jaden Ivey is going to take, because he's on a rookie deal, right? It's like $10 million, I believe, next year is what he would cost. And then after that, he's a restricted free agent. So it's a much smaller number, especially when you're considering guys like Simons, who are $30 million, and some other names that we'll throw around in here in these deals. Now, most of these, I believe I've got two different options. One is a pick option, and the other one, which I do think is the one that Detroit would want if they were going to do this, is a a Derek White-centered package. Now, White makes a little bit more money, so that's part of the reason. You're getting a very young asset back. I do think if you're moving somebody like Derek White in this deal, you would have to be pretty confident that you would be able to bring Jaden Ivey back. You'd have to be able to see a future. I don't think you make this Derek White, Jaden Ivey type trade if you're like, this is a one-year deal, we're just getting under the salary. I don't think you do that because there's some better packages out there. So this is with the assumption that Brad is jacked up about Jaden Ivey. So in this deal, the Celtics receive Jaden Ivey, likely an additional player, probably beef stew, Isaiah Stewart, who is their starting, sometimes backup big, plus some draft compensation, maybe a couple second-round picks, something like that. This side of the deal, Pistons would receive Derek White, maybe like a Baylor Shireman, so like a two-player type deal. That's just to make the money work. I do think there's a world where it's just Derek White. In this rationale, right, Detroit is acquiring a proven two-way vet. They're trying to win right now with some of the assets that they've put together off of a pretty successful year one. Derek White makes a ton of sense because he's an elite three-point shooter that can also defend with some of the best guards in the league. This is Boston doing it essentially to bring in some youth, some salary relief, adding a high upside guy in Ivy while freeing up some of the financial resources. So that way, if they do want to add a player in next free agency, as Tatum comes back, Jaylen Brown's back, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that's the proposed deal. So Ivy, along with Isaiah Stewart, somebody of that nature. Let's just say for Derek and some second round picks for Derek White. We're not going to say Baylor Shireman. We're not putting Baylor in there. The other one here is more of a pick focus swap. This time, the Celtics receive Jaden Ivey and then a couple of first-rounders. So maybe like a 2026 or a 2028, maybe both, some pick swaps, whatever you want to call it. And this is just straight up for Derek White. So you get, 2026 pick or a 2028 pick along with Jaden Ivey for Derek White. Now, this makes a little bit more sense for Boston because they're getting some more assets that they can flip. They're still getting the young talent in Jaden Ivey. They're getting off of the Derek White deal, which, again, is not an enormous amount of money. especially for Derek White and his talent. Like, I think he's actually one of the better contracts in the league, but you could argue that you're selling the top of Derek White, right? He's coming off probably like 2 back-to-back fringe NBA All-Star seasons. Didn't get there, but was close. Again, I think he got snubbed from All-NBA this past season, and that's not even a homer take. Everybody thought that. And again, elite three-point shooting, but like, how much higher does he have to go? Does it make sense to move off of him now to get a younger guy? I don't like that. I'm a big Derek White guy, even though like we're talking about somebody named Jaden Ivey, who I am a fan of. I don't really think it happens. Here's some of the hiccups that we could see, like how into this is Detroit. How badly does Detroit want to get off of Jaden Ivey? According to like Pistons officials, they've been like slow to move Ivey. I think this is something that's like bubbling under the ground. It hasn't been talked about. Of course, they don't want to bring that up. He's a young guy coming off an injury, still has a ton of value, so it makes more sense for them to be like, we're not moving Jaden Ivey. So that way, if you really do want him, you have to bowl him over with the move. But injury history, the timing of his contract, and reported trade chatter, that indicates that like there is a possibility that he is moved. This could be a midseason one too if Detroit finds themselves, say, like halfway through the season, not even halfway, like around the Christmas break. Detroit's, I don't know, like 10 games over 500. They're a 3-4 seed right now, and they're like, wow, if we are able to upgrade, like a quick upgrade from Ivy to White, now they're like, maybe we have a shot of getting out of the Eastern Conference. You could see them be a little bit more trigger happy. And again, financial freedom would be good for Boston, because the Celtics would seek to get under that luxury tax. They are still $20 million over it. And while moving off of Derek White would be a bummer, by stacking some of this cheaper talent in a Jaden Ivey, also acquiring some picks, they might be a little bit more willing to move off of these guys. Ivey's contract, too, is significantly below Boston's most expensive deals, making the trade financially viable. And so, again, I think there is a possibility here. I don't really think the Celtics want to move off of Derek White. But I don't know. So some key takeaways from this. A trade for Jaden is plausible, but would almost most certainly cost Boston a major rotation guard like a Derek White. I don't think you could do it without, like, Derek White's the least, or not the least. How do we phrase this? That's going to be like the best guy or like the Celtics are going to have to at least move off of somebody like Derek White. Detroit's willingness will depend on where they see themselves as a playoff guy. So, anyways, I don't know. I thought it was an interesting rumor. I'm into listening to it, but I don't think it's going to happen. But I like the idea. Like, if you were going to move off of a piece like a Derek White, that's the type of, I want to be betting on upside in a young guy who is financially in a place where you can, because I do think as a restricted free agent, I don't know what the market is going to look like for Jaden Ivey because he's coming off that injury. We know there's a ceiling there, but we haven't seen it consistently. So I don't know. So that's Jaden Ivey. I wanted to talk a little bit about The Ringer. Michael Pena from The Ringer was talking about, I didn't love it. Like, he did a piece called 8 Takes on the NBA season. And he said the Celtics will be very bad. And I'm going to quote him quickly. He said, "This is a prediction disguised as an observation in light of Tatum's Achilles injury and every personnel decision they've made since. It's more than fair to believe that the Celtics are preparing to tank away this upcoming season. As we've pointed out," he goes on to say, "a front court rotation of Keita, Garza, and Tillman speaks volumes. Boston is still in the second apron at about $20 million over the luxury tax. Even though Brad is saying we're not going to tank, the likely casualties to shed more salary are Simons, Georges Niang, but no one should be shocked if and when Sam Hauser gets traded." So that's Michael Pena of The Ringer. Again, not necessarily a Celtics insider, but also an unbiased take, right? He's not deep into the Celtics weeds. So what I figured we could do is look at some potential Boston Celtics trades that include these guys. Some we've sort of mentioned before, but let's do it. Let's start with Simons, and then we'll do a couple of different picks or trades together. So one of the reasons they'd move off of Simons, right? He just got here. His final contract, $27.7 million a year. Easy to get rid of $27 million. Simons is someone that has value. I know he has value because the chat is stoked to have Anthony Simons on this team. They've been shopping Simons to multiple teams, including the Grizzlies, which we've talked about before. Some of the Grizzlies deals more exciting than the others. We've talked about potentially Conchar, Brandon Clark, and Vince Williams Jr. However, most notably, it was reported that it was just kind of like a salary dump with some picks. Obviously, moving Simons would get him under the luxury tax. So, and I mean, the Grizzlies could use a backup guard, right? Also, we've got the Chicago Bulls, which we'll talk about. But before we get into that, let's talk about Georges Niang. Of course, he was acquired in the KP trade with Porzingis in Atlanta. He's owed $8 million in his final contract. So if you move off both of those, you math dorks, that's about $35.9 million. So the Celtics are considering flipping Niang for a younger, cost-controlled forward or somebody like that. He's a gap rotation filler. So if the Boston's going to move off of him, probably target a bench guy, somebody on a rookie deal, right, to just reset their age cap balance, or maybe just for like a second-round pick, something like that. And then last but not least, we get Sammy Hauser, kid. Sam Hauser, elite three-point shooter, even though nobody in the chat believes it. He's a career 40+% three-point shooter. Just signed a 4-year, $45 million extension, so that's valuable for a shooting and cap-friendly deal, but Boston may trade him just, to get younger. There's, according to rumors, robust interest from teams around the league, like the Heat, the Atlanta Hawks, frequently are mentioned, right? They need some shooting. The Hauser one could be a mid-season deal. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about some of these potential deals. Let's do a combined trade package because I think that's more exciting. What if this is with the Chicago Bulls? Anthony Simons and Sam Hauser for Nikola Vucevic, Ayo Dosunmu, and a second-round pick. It addresses the center need, right? We already just went over the bigs. So you get your Vucci main. It'll also, I'm kind of an Ayo Dosunmu fan. I like Ayo's game. Chicago's got a ton of guards already, and it cuts $8.7 million, helps them get under the tax. So Sam Hauser and Anthony Simons go to Chicago. It gives Chicago another guard, but more three-point shooting, which they do need. They get off of the Vooch deal. Well, not even off of the Vooch deal because that's almost over. But they get off Vooch because he doesn't make sense timeline. Chicago's clearly going young. They got rid of DeRozan. They got rid of Levine. But now it's time for Vooch to move. And Vooch is like a short-term fill. I'm not like, oh my God, Nikola Vucevic, we're due. We're going to win it all now. I'm not saying that. But I do think he makes sense. And again, I like Ayo. So that's one deal. Another potential deal, Sam Hauser again, Georges Niang for Danny Gafford of the Mavs. This is probably my favorite one. This helps. I don't know if Dallas needs Georges Niang. I don't know if he makes the most sense in Dallas just because of how many 4s and 5s they already have on this team. They clearly need to move off of a center, though. Gafford, Lively, Anthony Davis, P.J. Washington. One of those dudes got to go. That's too many dudes. Too many dudes. And again, I like this a lot. You might have to throw in like a protected first-round pick to make this happen too, but the idea of being able to move off, if it's Hauser, Niang, and like a protected first for Daniel Gafford, that also allows you to either keep Simons or move off of Simons to make another deal. I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that at all. Another like option for any of these three guys is just trying to acquire more picks. We mentioned Niang for like a second-round pick at the deadline, Hauser for a first-round pick at the deadline. Simons, I don't think you're going to get as juicy of picks just because, even though he's probably the best player of those three, because his deal is up, right? Hauser, if you trade for him, you have control over him for the next couple of years. Niang is like a cheap one, so that makes a ton of sense. But for Simons, you're not going to give up too much just for one season. So here's the bottom line on all of this stuff, right? Simons and Niang are both viewed as likely trade candidates before or during the season, especially as Boston manages to get cap and payroll flexibility, right? Hauser's elite shooting and friendly contract means Boston could hold for a significant price. I think if you had to bet on which one gets traded midseason versus preseason, Hauser's the one that probably goes in February, because I think you could really hold a team over on this because a team just being like, man, if we just had three-point shooting, like a team like Orlando, right? They added Desmond Bane, which I think is going to be huge for them. They also got Tyus Jones, but I could absolutely see them looking at the playoff landscape and being like, man, if we just had one more shooter out there, if you had Bane and Hauser along with Paolo, Franz, and whoever is their big, all of a sudden that opens the floor for Paolo and Franz even more. Maybe you get Orlando to put a little bit more in the deal. So I think that one makes the most sense. I also love the idea of combining some of these trades, trying to get a better, like we were talking about with Niang and Hauser for somebody like Daniel Gafford. I like that a lot. So it sucks to be in this situation when we're just trying to think about, like, let's make sure the money works. But I really do think that is where Boston was. And it was interesting to see somebody like Michael Pena, who, again, not like a diehard Celtics fan who, well, I think he is a Boston fan initially, but writing for the Ringer, just kind of seeing the tea leaves. Even though Brad has said, we're of course we're going to compete. We're going to try to win now. The moves they have made, like actions speak louder than words. Is that something that would be on a throw pillow or something, or on like a canvas sign? That's clearly what we can take away from this. I think this season should be an opportunity to like let the youth play. Let the youth play. Curious to hear what everybody's take is on some of these moves. Let me know. Like if you have a better move that we haven't thrown out there yet, put it in the chat. Speaking of the youth movement, it sounds like Al Horford, which we've talked about now for what feels like a month, has already given a verbal agreement to the Golden State Warriors, which BT Dubs, Golden State Warriors, only team this entire NBA offseason to not make a move. They haven't done anything. They still haven't figured out what they're doing with Jonathan Kuminga as a restricted free agent. And I don't know if that's what the holdup has been with Big Al, but they still haven't come to that decision. And again, another verbal agreement on DeAnthony Melton, which sounds like both Melton, who I like. I would have loved for the Celtics to sneak him. He's somebody that always gets hurt, but I really love his game. But anyways, Al Horford sounds like he is going to Golden State any day now, so he will be the big. And again, we've got the AARP Los Angeles Clippers, the AARP Golden State Warriors. We're going to have Draymond, Steph, Jimmy Butler, Al Horford, just the old heads, the Expendables. The Expendables and the Expendables 2 taking each other on. But yeah, I mean, Al, listen, I hope you're playing competitive basketball. You will be missed. I hope they bring you back after your time is done for like a one-day contract, retire as a Celtic. He's a Hall of Famer in my opinion. People forget that the Basketball Hall of Fame also includes college, and he had a historic collegiate career. But anyway, shout out Al. Hope he has a good time in the Bay Area. Enjoy some decent weather, some good food. Knock down some threes for Steph, I will root for you. It's easy when you do it in the Western Conference versus like going to the Knicks. So that does feel a little nice. All right, let's get to some of your comments from yesterday's videos, which is a reminder. If you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor, hit the subscribe, get involved in the chat. Get involved in the chat because this is probably my favorite segment is just talking about what you guys were talking about. This is what I learned through yesterday's video, and I couldn't believe it. We got a lot of Ben Simmons fans here. A lot of Ben Simmons fans. And I didn't know Ben Simmons had this many fans. I didn't. I thought he was the most dunkable guy on the internet. And what I found is the Celtics Daily is ready for Celtic Green Ben Simmons. So let's go. Let's start with NBA Update 8338. He says, why not sign him? That minimum, Ben Simmons, still a great playmaker, rebounder, transition play, and his defense still great. We used great how many times in there? 1, 2. 2. We used the word great 2 times in that sentence. There was also another Simmons comment that we need to get to here. There was something... There was a good one here. Okay, there we go. Nathan Hill. I'm going to put this in the same category. He said, Dennis Rodman might have scored 7 points all year long. So... this makes it sound like you're comparing Ben Simmons to Dennis Rodman. So we've got a Dennis Rodman comparison. We had great used a couple of times. Just real quick here. I'm not saying you got to score 15 points plus per game in order to be a good player. You know what you do need to do? Play basketball, though. Ben Simmons famously, since leaving the 76ers, has been unable to stay on the court. I think we said he played 50-some-odd games. People are saying he's doing all of these great things, right? Great things. If that was the case, the Los Angeles Clippers, who had no backup center, no backup big, they basically were either going Zubac or Nicholas Batum. In the playoffs, Ben Simmons played 8 minutes per game. 8 minutes per game. So if he is great at all of these aspects of the game, fine. Then why isn't he playing more than 8 minutes a game? Why? Both in the regular season, I think he played like 12 minutes a game. Postseason, 8 minutes a game. So if you're saying... I don't think he's great at any of those. I don't think he defends still at this high level. I think he's got moments. But I do think if you are now talking yourself into Ben Simmons, but are also saying that the Celtics are going to be a competitive team, I encourage you to put the pipe down. Put it down. Because if you are pro Simmons coming here right now, just know that you're like, you know what? I'm fine if we win 25 games this year. Let's go get the Brockton boy, AJ. Just say that. Just say that. Let's get Ben Simmons. Let's get Taco Fall. And let's tank. Let's Tanko Fall. Nice. Let's trademark that. Put that on some t-shirts. But yeah. And then shout out Zachary D'Amico in the chat. Also said, this man just name dropped Taco Fall. Not once, but twice. We did it 2 days in a row. Anyways, we'll call it there. Also, actually, one more. Our guy said, Divine Comedy said, can we bring back Time Lord? I think that is an interesting piece to watch. I don't know if the Celtics would do it. Depends what the cost is. But Portland now has Time Lord. has Yang Hassan, the rookie out of China, and then they have Donovan Clingan. Even though they moved DeAndre Ayton, they still got 3 centers. It would make a ton of sense for Time Lord to end up on a different team. So that is a name to watch. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow about some potential moves. But that's going to do it today. That's 2 videos in a row. We've talked about Ben Simmons. We need different chat today. Hit me up in the chat. Let me know, what are we talking about tomorrow? Appreciate everybody tuning in. Hit that subscribe, baby. Let's get up to 2K. We'll see you tomorrow.